Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Let's dive in. Today, we're discussing the difference between intuition and your brain and why it can be of life-saving importance. Okay, not every intuitive feeling is that dramatic, but learning to listen to it could make life a little bit easier. You might not always choose that path, but maybe it's your anxiety adding to the confusion. So what exactly does intuition mean? Intuition is usually described as the ability to understand something without the need for conscious reasoning. It's that deep inner knowing that transcends logic, and it usually shows up as that gut feeling, a hunch, or a subtle nudge. Intuition can help guide you toward decisions that align with your true self, even if you can't fully explain why you feel a certain way. The way that I like to describe it is that your intuition is a constant whisper that consistently gives you nudges and loving guidance. The kind of loving nudges that may challenge you to take positive steps forward. Your intuition feels like that gut feeling, a sense of knowing, the reason why you get a certain vibe from someone. The heart and the intuition work together, sending you signals to help you navigate life. So what's a rational mind? This is a part of your mind where you use your logic and your reasoning to make decisions. It's logical. It's the analytical side of the brain that processes information based on facts, rules, and past experiences. It's focused on making decisions that are practical, often trying to minimize risk and ensure your safety. Science is fascinating and an invaluable way to explore the world around us. However, it's important to remember that science is always evolving. It's not knowledge set in stone. What we consider a fact today is just the best understanding that we have at the moment, and it may change as new advancements come along. The rational mind likes to use science to back up its reasoning. The rational mind plays a crucial role in our lives, but from my experience, it's important to remember that it shouldn't be the sole factor that we rely on when we're making decisions. The rational mind and anxiety often get mixed up, which can be quite tricky. Many people find themselves confused with indecision and anxiety. It's understandable. The overlap can make it challenging to pinpoint what really contributes to those anxious feelings and that struggle to make decisions. Anxiety has a way of blending fear with excitement, and as you can guess, that creates quite a bit of confusion. Anxiety is typically a result of overthinking, a mix of fear of the unknown and self-doubt. It arises when we fear that something bad will happen without any real evidence. It often manifests as worry, a feeling of unease, or nervousness, but it's not intuition. Worrying doesn't provide any real guidance, it just creates mental clutter. Have you ever felt like something was a bad idea or that you probably shouldn't do it, but you did it anyway? How did it turn out for you? Probably not as well as you hoped. You think to yourself, I should have listened to that feeling. I learned this in my teenage years. It never stopped me, but I did learn from it. So now that we understand the basics of intuition and the rational mind, let's talk about how we can truly begin to listen to that inner wisdom. It's not always easy to decipher, but with practice, you can start to tune in. Let me share a story about when my intuition proved to me that it was the real deal. As some of you may know from my introduction, that while I worked on my bachelor's and my master's degree, I had 3 kids the entire time. I recall one Sunday afternoon when my parents were going to watch the 2 oldest kids, my 3-year-old and my almost 2-year-old. I remember sitting at my dining table doing my math homework while my youngest crawled around and played next to me. I remember feeling like something was wrong. Not just anxiety, but an overwhelming, unshakable feeling that something bad was going to happen. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it was all in my head, so I called my parents and asked them how the kids were doing. One of them calmly said, "They're right here, they're doing fine, nothing to worry about over here." I hesitated, but hung up anyway, trying to figure out why I was making all of this up. I kept trying to concentrate, but the feeling wouldn't let up. And about an hour later, I got a call from them. The first thing I heard was, "Everyone's okay, but your daughter managed to get through the fence and fell into the pool." They said my son ran to them saying, "My sister's in the pool." They didn't seem to register his panic quite fast enough until he yelled more forcefully, "My sister's in the pool." That's when they jumped up and ran. My sweet little girl had been struggling to stay afloat. I don't even want to imagine it. I have no idea how long she was in there, but what matters is that she was safe thanks to her brother. A lesson for all of us, a lesson for my parents to never take their eyes off the kids, and for me, that my intuition was very much in overdrive, communicating with me as if some higher power knew without a shadow of a doubt that something was going to happen. It was just more validation that everything happens for a reason. This was one of the times in my life where my intuition was so intense that I couldn't dismiss it. And my belief that intuition might just be a direct connection to our higher self or our true self or something far more beyond. Of course, in hindsight, I wish I had acknowledged how I felt and gone to pick up the kids. Over the years, I have become more and more clear about understanding and listening to my intuition. From time to time, that feeling still shows up, not to that degree, but I am intentional to listen. And I think it's also an important part of the path to inner peace. Intuition is known as your personal guidance system. A personal guidance system refers to this internal compass that we all have that helps direct us toward decisions and paths that align with our values, our purpose, and our true self. It's a deeply rooted sense of knowing that guides us toward growth, safety, and fulfillment. So, how do we begin to tell the difference between intuition and anxiety? To a certain degree, you need enough awareness to realize that your anxiety is just that: thoughts gone into overdrive, completely made up, worry, and assumed beliefs. In reality, those aren't very true at all. Worries aren't completely true, they're usually just fears. Can you see the difference between factual truth and a fear, a lie? Truth is what you know as fact. As far as you know from where you are at this moment in time, it's true. For example, the truth is I'm fine right now. My kids are sleeping or they're in school. I'm employed. The sky is blue, etc. Once you can see the truth, you can start to brush off or send away that lie so that you can start to tune into your intuition a little more. When you start to notice anxiety, ask yourself, is this based on reality or is this my mind imagining worst case scenarios? The key is to differentiate between imagined fears and intuitive knowing. So, how do we tell the difference between intuition and the rational mind? Remember, intuition is a quiet, consistent feeling and a sense of knowing. It's rooted in emotions. Emotions are the compass that gives you a red light to stop, a yellow light to warn you, and a green light that says you can continue to move forward. The green light feels more soothing to the soul. It may even give you a little relief because you're finally doing the thing. The rational mind, on the other hand, is trying to use logic, rules, and science to back up its claim. My clients are often stuck here because the rational mind makes so much sense. It's very convincing. But it also caters to the small self. Safe and small is best, right? But is it going to help you reach for your highest potential? And if you're not sure, tune into episode 8 because I share a lot more about it there. What if you're wondering, well, my intuition isn't loud and obvious. How do I even start? I like to look at life as if everything's on purpose. Yes, even the worst moments of our lives. I have learned and believe that we experience what we need for the most growth possible. Hypnosis backs up this claim that what we endure only deepens the exponential growth and healing that we are capable of experiencing. Because of these beliefs, I've come to know that there's no such thing as coincidence. Remember, the feeling will return. It'll prove to you it's consistent. The ego, the rational mind, it uses fear, worry, and science, and it will distort itself to win or overpower your heart and your intuition. And let me share with you why I believe there's no such thing as coincidence. Where did I come up with this belief? Some years ago, I remember my kids and I went to put gas in the car. I was in a hurry. My older kids insisted on buying something in the store. As I was waiting for the gas tank to fill, a man was putting gas in his motorcycle. It was a beautiful motorcycle, black, shiny, sparkling. I'm not even into cars or motorcycles, but for some reason, it stood out to me. As I finished up, I was getting frustrated because my kids were taking forever. So long that I moved to a different spot to let others fill up. I was impatiently texting them to hurry up. Eventually, they got in the car and I told them, finally. We started driving toward the freeway on-ramp. A few seconds later, I noticed that the cars were starting to get backed up. I wondered why, but I went ahead and started to move toward the left lane to get through. As I drove past the congestion, I briefly looked over and saw the man who had been pumping gas lying on the ground completely unconscious. People were rushing to him. I gasped, briefly prayed for him, and humbled myself for how I had been acting. This situation showed me that if I had left when I was supposed to, if my kids hadn't gone into the store, we could have been involved. We could have been hurt. We could have been in an accident. It was divine timing. In hindsight, I realized that I was going against my intuition. I knew there was no rush, but my rational mind, my logic, my ego was winning at that moment. I was resisting what I knew I could have done, which was to be patient and know that all is well and there's no need to rush. I didn't have anywhere I needed to be. Your heart and intuition work together in harmony. Your heart expresses the love within you, while your intuition provides that inner wisdom that aligns with that love. The path to inner peace is found when you are in alignment with both your heart and intuition, moving towards your highest potential. As I've shared in previous episodes, your commitment to healing and personal growth will ultimately lead you to inner peace. Peace is our birthright. We don't have to choose the harder path of staying small or avoiding the work that brings us closer to our truth. The heart's expression is about choosing love over fear, because peace is for everyone willing to show up for themselves. What has your intuition been guiding you toward? Is there a book that keeps catching your attention? Someone you've been meaning to reach out to? A course that you've been thinking about taking? Is it time to move on from something or someone? If it continues to come back to you, it's a sign. It's a reoccurring feeling that you can sense is in your best interest. Intuition is often subtle, quiet, and gentle, but it's always there, guiding you toward what's best for you. At first, it might feel like a faint whisper, something you can't quite put your finger on, but with practice, you'll begin to recognize it more clearly. The key is learning to trust it, allowing it to lead you without letting anxiety or overthinking take over. When you tune into your intuition, you start making decisions that are more aligned with your highest potential. And that's another connection point where real growth and peace begin. And here's the thing, there's no such thing as coincidence. Every moment, every person, every situation has a purpose, guiding you exactly where you need to be. Even if you misinterpret your intuition along the way, trust that it's still part of the plan. It's all part of the process of fine-tuning your skills, helping you grow and get you closer to your true path. In the next episode, we'll explore the role of self-love in your journey to peace. I'll show you how embracing self-love lays the foundation for lasting healing and inner peace. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about nurturing a deep connection with yourself. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I hope something here met you right where you are. This podcast is for inspiration only and not a substitute for therapy. Please reach out to a licensed professional if you need support. I'll catch you on the next one.